while we're covering off on East Africa, which is a host of countries, Alawi is from Tanzania. So we can cover off on that, and I might pass the floor now to Alawi, who has a presentation to give us first up. Okay. Thank you, Alawi.
Thank you very much indeed for having me here. As the governor said, I'm from Tanzania. But before I start maybe my presentation, I would like to ask in the audience, is anybody of you have been to East Africa? Okay, I see. So my presentation will take you maybe 20 minutes to 25 minutes to some sort of a safari, doing a safari tour in East Africa. So we'll start with Kilimanjaro, going through Serengeti, and ending up to Zanzibar. So this is more or less a presentation of what I'm going to talk about. So as it said, it's East African community, which comprises of the 7 countries. Now we are lucky that South Sudan has also joined the East African community. But before this slide, I just want to tell you what is our institution and what are we doing. So I am the founder of East African, the African Battery Mineral Initiative. So I will call it ABI, and it's an initiative that was founded in order to promote foreign direct investment to the whole supply chain of the critical mineral. This is one point. The second point is to make sure that any single kilo of critical mineral from Africa going out of Africa without being added value. So this is the second pillar of our initiative. The third, of course, is to change the perception and the image of African continent when it comes to the critical mineral or the mineral industry at all. So this is, the East African Battery, what we stand for. Started in 2030 with the head office in Zanzibar, Tanzania. And I'm living in Germany, where we have subsidiary all over Europe up to China. So this is small about the background of an Africa Battery Initiative. Now, Africa Battery Initiative is cooperating very close with the East Africa community in many aspects. So we started with East Africa, but we'll be moving to SADC, to ECOWAS, and the rest of Africa. So this is my first slide. The second slide, please. So capitalizing on South Africa's Summit 2030. So, of course, before I start with the opportunities, I needed to talk about the challenges that we are facing in our region. The most of the challenge is the negative publicity when it comes to Africa. Everybody, I'm living in Germany for the last 27 years. I know what I'm talking about when we try to promote mineral industry in our region. People will come with a word like child labor, or it will be taking 20 years to have an up and running mining facility in the region, which is not the case. So we are trying to foster and polish the image of our region when it comes to this investment. Now, second is an opportunity that we do offer. So when we talk about the super region, I really needed to say here that the super region, when it comes to Africa, is the East Africa. Why? So this is the answer to that one. So you can see, when you take only Tanzania, Burundi, DRC, and Zambia, you see when it comes to this critical mineral we're talking about, 60%, 64% of that mineral are to be found in that region. So we talk about nickel, 40%, lithium, 45%, graphite, and so forth. Even in my country, Tanzania, there's a region known as the graphite. A province is called the name graphite. So you can understand what does it mean by the super region when it comes to the critical mineral. So this is a proof of what we do offer as East Africa. Of course, we know most of the other countries will be, but this is an opportunity when, per definition, as the super region. So now, we, as the Africa Battery Initiative, we have collected a database of 2,500 critical mineral concession owners throughout from Burundi. Before I come here, I was invited to this event when I was in COP28 in Dubai. And after Dubai, I went to Tanzania, Burundi, and DRC, collecting more data, updating our database. So we have 2,500 critical mineral concession owner. I mean, this is the lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and all this. So when it comes to solution or it comes to investment, this is where we can say our asset that we can offer to investors who are looking to come to our region for investment. So solution that we offer, because in this event it is about solution, collaboration, and of course partnership. So we are providing, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is forging to become a critical, electric vehicle manufacturing. We are having the discussion now with the National Development Center in Saudi Arabia. They are looking to establish 28 gigawatt electric car battery manufacturing plant here. So this East Africa region has to offer, and we are in discussion with them now. The Africa Battery Initiative would like to join hands with the Green Initiative, and of course the Battery Initiative to Saudi Arabia, which is intended to increase its share from non-oil GDP from 16 to 15. This can only be done when East Africa and Africa together collaborating with Saudi Arabia in addressing this subject. So the collaboration that we are looking for is, we are in discussion with the public fund institution, the National Development Center, and Ma'adin, and other companies from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the rest of the world. So this is first, very short. I don't like to cut the time. We have only 3 slides. The last slide that I'm going to share with you, that is where we are now. We have finished Kilimanjaro, we have finished Serengeti. Now I'm taking you back to Zanzibar. So this is Zanzibar. Why I'm talking about Zanzibar, we are preparing the first East African Battery Mineral Summit 24, which will be taking place in Zanzibar from the 24th to the 25th of April. So everybody in here is invited to attend this one. So the head of state from all these countries are there, who are going to be under the custodian of the president of Tanzania. So you see now, this is East African community. This is Africa Battery Initiative of the government of Tanzania, which will be the co-host of our event. So we really kindly invite you to attend this event and to be part of the history, because this is the first event that will be taking place in the super region when it comes to the critical mineral. So in short, this is my 4th slide, and then thank you for listening, and I will be here for more discussion.
Right. Thank you, Alawi. Thank you very much. Have a seat, please. Alawi, very interesting story. I actually didn't realise what a very almost dominant position that East Africa has in supply of critical minerals. And the rest of the world, I'm not sure they actually know that. So it's a very exciting story and an opportunity for you. I know that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is very, very keen on strategic critical minerals. What is the current relationship that East Africa has with the Kingdom, and where do you see the opportunities and the future going in that relationship?
Wonderful. So as you could see in the second slide, in November last year, the Saudi Arabia hosted the so-called Saudi African Summit, which involved most of all African presidents were here. And the main discussion that was on the top of the agenda was the cooperation of Saudi Arabia with the African country in critical minerals per se. You see, so Saudi Arabia has allocated at least $15 billion for investment in critical mineral. And as we are talking now, we are in discussion with the entities like a public investment fund in entity like Maadin, the entity like in Manara, and an entity like NIDC, which is the National Industrial Development Center, which has the goal of setting up 28 gigawatt of electric battery manufacturing plant. So now, maybe to go back deeper in that question, I'm living in Germany, you know, and you see that the country in Europe, the blunder they are doing, they're starting investing in electrical car battery manufacturing plant. In Europe now we have 50 mega factories that are going to be, but you ask those countries or those people, where are you going to procure those critical minerals needed? So why are you putting the cart before the horse? You know, what Saudi Arabia has done, you know, in cooperating with East Africa and other countries to secure the supply of the critical mineral before starting the manufacturing of electrical car manufacturing, battery manufacturing plant. This is the best approach, I would say.
Okay, I was just thinking that what are the challenges that you face in a vital area of downstream processing and attracting partners in that space, but also partners who have the capital and the technology base to help you build these industries, these businesses?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. I mean, as you could see in my first slide, I talk about the negative perception or negative publicity that Africa is facing when it comes to this industry. So I think the problem is not funding, the problem is not financing. Most of the investors are shying off coming to Africa because of the negative publicity. So our Africa Better Initiative, what we are trying to do is to polish that image to make sure that the real story is being told, you see? So this is one. And when it comes to partnership, we are eager to have a partner like, from West, and we don't see it's really not a big problem as I'm talking, because we are in discussion with the big three, that is General Motors, Stellantis, and Ford, looking to invest in the region. I mean, when it comes to United States. And when it comes to Europe, we have a discussion now with Mercedes-Benz, the VW. So as an off-taker, of some component to be manufactured in our region. So it's not a challenge, but what I say the challenge is simply negative publicity that we need to polish.
Okay, there's two sides to this question, really. In East Africa, you've got, in the critical mineral space especially, you've got exploration and discovery, and then on the other side you've got development and production. Two sides. How is the health of those two sides, the health of exploration and discovery of critical minerals in East Africa, and separately the health of development and production of critical minerals in East Africa?
That's okay. This is a wonderful question, because, of course, now when it comes to discovery, I'm glad to say that during the COP28, we had a discussion with the ESA. This is the European Space Agency, which has shown the collaboration of the very much interested to cooperate with our countries in doing the so-called mineral mapping, this one, and then at the same time trying to do the quantification of the mineral. This is the second. And so this is something that we are trying to forge with the different international institution. So, in regarding to the investment, so here we have investors like from Saudi Arabia who are very much interested to support the investment in all supply chain of the critical mineral, starting from of course, the extraction, up to the so-called, let's say, refinery. So in refinery, up to the even critical battery manufacturing plant. So we are combining this, and we see a very huge interest, in the region. So when it comes to funding, the partner like South Africa and the other OEMs, the car manufacturers from Europe, are very much interested to invest, even up to the IFAO battery manufacturing plant, and taking the component produced in Africa to be installed in their cars in Europe.
Okay. We know that the Kingdom has, as you've explained to us, has interest and investment in East Africa. What other countries have a presence in East Africa, and what other companies? What companies
Yes.
have a, I think of the big ones, the BHPs, the Rios, the Anglos, the Vales, that type of thing. So the countries and the companies that are there.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. In this case, I would say most of the companies that we are having now in East Africa are from China. Most of them are from China because, as I said, Western company, they are a little bit reluctant due to the negative publicity I mentioned. But the situation is changing now. We are discussing with the VW, Mercedes-Benz. They also, of course, have shown a very big interest. They are even now in Tanzania, in Burundi. During my last visit to Burundi in December, I was accompanied with those companies, the Mercedes-Benz, VW, and BMW as well. So now we saw from Europe there's their interest. European Union has allocated at least 360 billion for investment in critical mineral in the region. So this is addressing even the infrastructure and all. So we are putting together, and we are supporting those entities that are going to are interested in investing in Africa, being supported by European Union, to ensure the availability of those critical minerals for their industries.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alawi, as we know, you're here representing the East Africa community as an inter-government agency.
Yes.
When we look at the several countries that you mentioned there, I imagine that each of them has a different regulatory process, and some of them are difficult, some of them are not so difficult. Is there a shared thought process in East Africa about a one-stop shop regulatory process, or are they all so different? Some are better than others.
Yes. As I said, I'm coming from the East African community, which is an intergovernmental organization. So there's really almost one shop when it comes to investment opportunity. Of course, if you want to invest in Tanzania, there are some Tanzania Investment Authority, Uganda Investment Authority, but all of them coming through the East African community, you will not be running the bureaucracy marathon. So we try to make sure that there's no bureaucratic marathon you have to run through the East African window. So that is why I said cooperating with the East African community, it makes the life easier for investors.
For those that are listening today, is East Africa community itself as an entity, does it have a physical presence where companies can go to seek knowledge and seek assistance? And if so, where is it based?
Yes. So, yes, East Africa as an entity, as an intergovernmental organization with its office in Arusha. The head office is in Arusha in Tanzania. So every country, Tanzania, Uganda, so really as to make the life easier, going through the East African community, it will be easier, for whenever investor. But still, the government in question will be involved through the East African. So in order for you to really understand and to get to hear from horse's mouth, inviting you to this event, it's a must for any, people who are looking to do investment in critical minerals, who are looking for energy transition, who are looking for decarbonization. So this is the place to be in April.
East Africa is a very big place with quite a few countries on the table here. As we all know, if you go to look for minerals and you find them, then there are a whole set of new challenges. I've been in the mining industry for over 40 years, and I have always joked when a geologist announces a verifiable world-class discovery, I look at the geologists and I say, oh, look at all the problems you've created for us now by discovering a world-class ore body. And those problems come into areas like the utilities. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. I'm talking availability and access to electricity, cheap electricity, to water, and to the other utilities that will allow you to build and produce these strategic or critical minerals. How does that look, the access to the utilities?
No, thank you very much for that question. Taking, for example, Tanzania, we are currently finishing up the 2.1 gigawatt of hydroelectric power. 2.5 hydroelectric and 2.5 gigawatt of electrical power. Taking DRC Congo with Nonda 1 and 3, they are also almost of the same 3.5 gigawatt electric power. So this is one example of how we address the utility. Now, when it comes for commotion from R to Z, we have in Tanzania and the all East Africa, the interregional connectivity program, where we have the railway line, which is under electricity, using the hydroelectric power to generate electricity for that railway. So the railway connecting Tanzania, Burundi, and DRC, which will be promoting those commodities, will be using zero emission energy source, which is hydropower. I mean, to answer to that question. And of course, the region is endowed with a lot of water, which is also needed for, smelting and of course the refinery. So the utility per se when it comes to energy. And then of course we are some sort of multiplication of energy sources, hydro, solar as well as wind. So this energy mixture is there addressing the challenge of utility. So the government have invested a lot with the World Bank support in the hydroelectric power, which is going to address it. And here we have our partner in Saudi Arabia who are also investing in hydroelectric power, interregional project between Malawi and Tanzania. So you see, this issue of the utility is addressed per se, and of course it won't be a challenge at all to promote product from A to Z using the railway line, which is going to be up and running maybe by the end of this year.
Okay, great. I have one more question before I open the floor to questions from the floor. That is that, okay, East Africa, what makes you a preferred destination or partner? What are those differentiators that you have there?
You know, taking for example Saudi Arabia alone, so the geographic proximity between Saudi Arabia and Tanzania and East Africa, we are talking about 3,000 kilometers from Dar es Salaam to Jeddah. So the difference. I mean, the geographical proximity is one of the something that is, I mean, let's say, comparative advantage to the other region. This is one, and then of course when we talk about the super region, the country with the region with 70% of the critical minerals that we are looking for. I mean, the region endowed with those critical minerals could be next to none. So this is a comparative advantage, I mean, which you wanted, I mean, when you talk about why East Africa, because we have everything that the electrical car industry, semiconductor industry are looking for. So maybe to answer the question.
Okay, back to my question about utilities. There's the other side of that, access to labour and the skills. pretty difficult to build a mine if you don't have the skill base.
No, that's a wonderful question. And this is why I say our partner in China. So in August, from August to September, we conducted a roadshow all over China. So we are in cooperation with the university, and even today, the King Abdullah University of Technology, we're signing agreement to have exchange. I mean, to have capacity building training for our young people. University cooperation between East Africa and China, which is more now. And then we have also technology partnership with the university, Technical University in Berlin, with the Dar es Salaam University in the geology. So there's something that is being done to address that point as well.
Okay. Questions from the floor. If you have a question, please, could you pop your hand up? Come on. Yes, we have one up there from Aldo. Wait for the microphone, please, Aldo.
Good morning, good afternoon, Doctor. Thank you for the briefing on East Africa, which is a vital part of this super region that we're trying to define. You mentioned the work you've been doing with the car industry, and that's one of the stakeholder groups that is missing from this conversation here, and we're keen to have on board. What can we do to help you invite them to be part of this conversation and grow this East Africa discussion?
Yes, I mean, thank you very much indeed. Because now, as I said, the first thing that we are trying to do is to polish the image of the critical mineral industry in Africa. So you see, for example, that's a wonderful question. Taking, for example, VW, the German car manufacturer. So this company, they have been seconded their procurement office to China, in order to maybe using Chinese company to procure the critical mineral from Africa, taking them to China and then back to Germany. So they are shying of going directly to the region because of the negative publicity. So now what we are trying to do is to get the direct connection between Germany and Africa, direct investment without going, through China to avoid the negative publicity. A company like VW, Mercedes-Benz, will never afford to have any negative. If we say you have cobalt from Congo and there are child labor involved, then you know what could be the consequence for that. So this is really the challenge that we are facing.
Okay. Other questions from the floor? Please, there's one over here.
Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you very much indeed, Dr. Alawi, for the very well informative presentation and speech you have delivered this morning. My name is Mohammed Al-Haji, and from the investments side from the Saudi Arabia. Indeed, Tanzania is one of the destinations that the Saudi government has a very important focuses on that area. Especially during the last Saudi Arab African summit that had been addressed by Dr. Alawi, there was a lot of attention has been given to the possibles approach and the things. We, as one of the Saudi investment company, also had started the first initiative on the power generation and hydropower investments. And indeed, I would believe that there is a lot of opportunities in Tanzania in terms of critical minerals associated to the car industry. My question, Dr. Alawi, what is the cooperation level between the joint African committee communities and the arrangement for the future requirement of the critical minerals for the motor vehicles industries in Saudi Arabia? As you know now, there is two leading car manufacturers, electrical car manufacturer, which is Lucid and Seer. Lucid already started production on September, and Seer, it is on the pipeline to start the production very soon. So what do you think the level of cooperations as addressed yesterday by His Excellency, the Minister of Investments, that the Saudi government will build a plan to as a major enabler for such critical mineral to support the exploration and the production. So what is the tie-in between the East African community and the car electrical motor vehicle manufacturing in Saudi Arabia? Yes.
Thank you very much for that question, because this touches what we have been talking from this event. I mean, now the Saudi Arabia, through the entity like PIF, the Public Investment Fund. As I mentioned before that, we are now in discussion with the NIDC, which is the National Industrial Development Center, under the Ministry of Industry and Mineral Resources. So the cooperation really sees to put into action what has been discussed during the Saudi Africa Summit in November last year. So we are putting everything under the motto of this FMF 2024 is that to put the word into action. So we are now in the area where we are signing MOU with some entity here in Saudi Arabia, in particular the NIDC, which is supposed to be establish a factory for 28 gigawatt of electrical car battery manufacturing plant in Saudi Arabia. We are also in discussion with the Manara, which is a subsidiary of the Ma'adin, also for mining in our region. So, and together with this entity, we are in discussion with the ESA, the European Space Agency, to do the mapping together with the funding from the Saudi. So we are getting there.
Okay, thank you for that question. Other questions that we have from the floor? Okay, I think we're fine there. Before we close, I'd just invite Alawi again to remind us of where you can go to find this gateway of the intergovernment agency that we know as the East Africa Community. So Alawi, where do we go again for that gateway? It's Tanzania, but...
Yes, I mean, the way we go again, you are welcome to Zanzibar, 24th to 25th of April this year. This will be the event that will bring all stakeholders, everything to do with the critical mineral on our planet will be there. So I sincerely invite you to join us at that time.
Okay, unless there are any other questions at the moment, right? Anything else that you'd like to add, Alawi, on this?
No, I think that
Right.
I hope that the trip to my safari region was not bumpy, and thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in thanking Dr. Alawi Saburi and for giving us such an insight into East Africa. Thank you, Alawi. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments' time, Peter Arkell is back from GMAC, and we're looking at Uganda. So please join us shortly for Uganda. Thank you.